Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So the holidays are coming up. Christmas is right around the corner. And one of the most popular things that I think a lot of people would want to buy as a gift, or if they're lucky, get as a gift, is an iPad Pro. Especially considering it starts at $800 and up to $1,000. And then when you include all the accessories, it's going to be way more than that. But imagine to yourself if you open up this box or gift and you get another surprise, and that is the present of a slight bend on your new premium iPad Pro. Yep, here we go. We now have bend gate for your iPad Pro, which is very similar to the iPhone bend gate that we had previously, and antenna gate, and many other gates that are all related to Apple. And this is something that I really feel is the norm nowadays when it comes to Apple. And I have used Apple products. Overall, I really feel that they are very well built. They are high quality. But the issue here is not the fact that there's defects. Because when you have a company of this size, you're producing billions of different products over the lifetime, you're bound to have defects. There's no way you're not going to have defects. What really bothers me, and it's always been something that I really did not like about how Apple handles this as a brand, as a company, is their response. And their response here is saying that Apple does confirm that some iPad Pros are shipping with a slight bend in the aluminum chassis, but they're saying it is a natural side effect of their manufacturing process, and it shouldn't worsen over time or negatively affect the quote-unquote flagship iPad's performance in any practical way. Apple does not consider to be a defect. And that's the part where it just really rubs me the wrong way, especially considering how much money you spent. You could spend up to $1,900 for a fully loaded one. And on top of that, it really hurts the consumer in the end. I mean, especially if you are somebody who's invested heavily into their ecosystem and products and you actually love the brand. And this is one thing that I have talked about many times before when it comes to Apple. They are still, in my opinion, considered the best company in the world when it comes to marketing. But I also consider them one of the worst when it comes to how they treat their customers, treats the people who actually love and buys their brands. Because the defect itself is not something that can't be fixed. What can't be fixed, or is very difficult to fix, is the trust that you've actually built with your consumers. And in almost every instance, Apple really treats their consumers like children, and they treat them like they're stupid, you know? And unfortunately, I wouldn't say you're really smart if you're spending all this money and then when things like this happen that you're constantly spending more money with them. So that's just my personal opinion. But, you know, if I was to be treated like this, I more than likely would never come back to your brand, and I would go somewhere else. And this is something that I hope at some point Apple does change, but I do understand that they're probably not going to, and that their brand is so powerful, their marketing is all encompassing, that the reality distortion field is probably never going to leave, and it's only going to get stronger. But yeah, if you were somebody who actually were a consumer of this and you actually got this, it would probably be not a very good Christmas. You'd probably be very pissed off. And so definitely keep your receipts if you did run into this, and more than likely check your boxes, definitely. And if you are fed up with the way that they treat their customers, well, unfortunately, I don't think there's too many great options, because I have talked about this on a previous episode about Android tablets. Even though Samsung tablets are nice, their app selection, the software that's built for it, their entire ecosystem for their tablets, it's still the best on Apple. So anyways, well, yeah, I'm gonna move on from that, because that already is starting to trigger me, and I don't even have an Apple product. So moving on, let's go to another company that people all love, and that is Microsoft. And the recent rumor is, or maybe feeling, is that Microsoft could release a Linux desktop. And the thing is, I have talked about this many times before in previous videos. especially when Microsoft purchased GitHub. I've always said that Microsoft will more than likely be the biggest proponent of open source. And I think anybody who's been following this can see that as well. Microsoft is a partner of the Linux Foundation. Microsoft has their own distro, as a matter of fact. It's their Microsoft Azure Sphere, and it's basically made for IoT, Internet of Things devices. And so this is on Microsoft's website, by the way. And so if you go down here, here is the Azure Sphere OS. It uses the Linux kernel. And also, when it comes to cloud services, Microsoft Azure Cloud Services, the leading operating system that is being used on there is Linux. So yeah, Microsoft is heavily into Linux and open source. And this is something that I know that whenever it is released, in my personal opinion, that it'll probably be the most popular Linux desktop distro in time. Now, for people who are already using Linux as a desktop operating system right now, they're probably thinking that is never going to happen and that people in the open source community is going to fight this. But Microsoft is already in open source. They've been in open source, and now that they own GitHub, they're going to dominate open source. That's just kind of where everything is going. And if you look at all the other bigger companies who are really actively donating to the open source foundation, they use a lot of open source tools. I don't think a lot of people realize that the biggest users of open source is actually the proprietary closed source companies. That's something that's never going to go away because Linux, or just open source tools in general, not only are they great technically, they're great for business. They produce a lot of revenue, and at the same time, since it is open source, you have large communities, you get free developers, you get free testers, beta testing. And so that's something that it's simply hard and almost impossible to scale at this point with a proprietary system. And as you can see by all these companies here, this list is continually growing, and it's not going anywhere, and I'm just waiting for this Linux desktop OS to come out for Microsoft. And I'm pretty sure, as I've mentioned before, whenever it does come out, it will be initially met with a lot of hate, and I could definitely see that. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure over time what Microsoft is going to do with their desktop operating system is really use it as a platform to introduce their other Microsoft services. And eventually, who knows, this might be their top operating system versus their current Microsoft operating system, because of the simple fact that this will allow people to use their operating system without having to use their operating system, if that makes sense. It will allow them to get their entire ecosystem in wherever you are at, whether it's on their proprietary system or on an open source version, this Linux version right here. And that is the same strategy that Google is using with their Chrome OS. That is the same strategy they're using with their browser. And so in the end, it's not about the operating system. As I have mentioned this in other videos, it's about their entire ecosystem. That's what's really important to these companies in the end. And that's really the only way they're going to survive, because just selling the operating systems, that's no longer enough, and it's not viable anymore. And so those are my thoughts on this new Microsoft Desktop Linux. Right now it is a rumor, but I'm just waiting for that episode where I talk about using this brand new operating system. And so if you had any thoughts on MS Linux or any other things related to this iPad Pro Bendgate, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Go Content Creators group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Go Content Creators group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.